My 26M wife, 28F, walked out because I wouldn't sleep with her while she was pregnant. My wife and I have been together 5 years, married 2, and expecting our first child. We've been trying for over a year, so we were over the moon when we found out she was pregnant. She was a little nervous about her body changing, but I assured her that I would always find her beautiful inside and out. During her first trimester she felt sick all the time, and as a result intimacy was almost non-existent. I didn't complain about the lack of intimacy during this time because I knew she couldn't help it. A few weeks into the second trimester things turned around though, and she started trying to initiate sex. This is where problems arose. She was starting to show at this point, which made it impossible to deny that there was a little baby in there. I couldn't stay hard because I felt like we were doing it right in front of the baby. She was understanding at first. I have had issues in the past, and she has always been kind and never shamed me for it. And she suggested we do hand stuff and oral instead. However, I explained I didn't feel like doing anything sexual with the baby in the room. She said the baby was the size of a grape and didn't have a brain yet, but I told her it wasn't about logic. I just felt gross and I couldn't enjoy it. Over the next few weeks she kept trying to initiate sex and I kept turning her down. I started to get a little annoyed by the second week of this because she knew very well how I felt about it yet kept asking. Last night when I turned her down for sex once again, she blew up at me and said she never would have married me if she thought I was the kind of guy to lose attraction to his pregnant wife while she's carrying his child. I tried to explain that I'm still attracted to her, but she didn't listen. She packed a bag and went to her parents' house. I got a text from my brother-in-law a few hours later asking if I'm okay and what happened, so I guess at least she hasn't been spinning a negative story about me to my in-laws. I haven't responded to the text though. I'm confused and heartbroken. Our marriage might end over something so trivial. How can I get her to understand that I really am still attracted to her? I would say, maybe this isn't just about sex. Although I'm sure that's a part of it. She is a vulnerable place right now. Her body is changing and hormones are all over the place. She's already worried you don't find her attractive. Were you attentive in other ways? Intimacy is not only sex. Did you hold her? Tell her you loved her? Kiss and cuddle with her? Maybe these things would help her feel connected to you. It's hard being pregnant. I used to have dreams that my husband was cheating on me when I've never had those concerns IRL. It's not something trivial. I suggest counseling. I don't know how to do that, but here to add something that may be your till. When my wife was pregnant, I asked the OB about sex during pregnancy and was worried about harming the baby. She stated that sex during pregnancy has a lot of benefits. It helps mom exercise and stay fit. It helps to bond pairs even more. And the semen also helps the amniotic sac. Ultimately, if you're not in the mood, no one can force you to be in the mood. But I'm not sure what good insisting you're attracted to her will do when you can't bring yourself to act on it. So if you want your marriage to get through this, you need to be willing to at least try and come to grips with this feeling you acknowledge is irrational. Especially when if the baby being around is the problem. I'm not sure if she can trust this will go away once it's born but still in your house. Or if you will see her differently when she's a mom. You told her you are still attracted to her, but your actions showed her otherwise. Not being able to sustain an erection is no big deal and she's been clear about that. But telling her all forms of sex won't happen while she's pregnant makes her feel like you don't see her as anything more than a baby housing, and certainly not as an attractive woman. It's not a trivial thing, and the more you insist it is, the more this endangers your marriage. Treat it like the serious problem it is and seek counseling to get you two back to some form of intimacy. Okie dokie. Lot to unpack here. Op. This is coming from a pregnant woman and my lovely husband who is offering his own advice next. To me, first thing, you need to start therapy and marriage counseling. You don't have to want sex 24/7, but your reasons are kinda. You're pregnant with my baby and that's all I want you for, even if that's not your intention. Second, kinda understand that in front of a baby thing, but at the same time, it has absolutely no clue what is going on. Oral, doggy, missionary. It won't acknowledge any of that. Third, if you can't have sex with her now, while it's just cells and still developing and lacking situational awareness, what the hell are you gonna do when it's in a crib or bassinet? When it's just a room away and can hear? Or when it inevitably starts crawling, then walking? Where will your intimacy be then? Fourth thing. Op. Her hormones are off the chart. My husband can vouch for this, but both times I've been pregnant, I wanted to be touched 24/7. Everywhere. At all times. My husband was coming home on lunch breaks to help me get it out of my system. The shower, the bed, the car. Those hormones can drive you crazy. To completely reject her like you're doing, especially if she's feeling anything close to what I am. No wonder she left. I'm sorry, but good grief. You gotta figure something out. Op. She didn't suddenly lose sexual desires because you got her pregnant. You're treating her like an object to grow your baby regardless of what she wants, needs. Feeling the way you do is not really the problem. I'm sure it's reasonably common. However, refusing to address it and ignoring your wife's distress is. To brush her sexual needs off as trivial is really awful, especially when she's already tried finding compromises. I would be hurt enough to walk out. 2. Sounds like you wouldn't even be willing to stay in the room with her while she pleasures herself and give her non-sexual intimacy? Like, you can't expect her to just be a nun until she gives birth. Having physical intimacy withheld is really damaging to a person's self-esteem. And it may be valid to abstain at this point. No one can force you to have sex, but it's not really rational. And you need to acknowledge this to yourself and to her, and suggest couples counseling. Otherwise, by the time the baby shows up, the relationship is already going to be so strained that you'll be hard-pressed to handle the stress of parenthood with her. What will you do when your baby is born and your wife is also mom? Will that turn you off too? I don't think you have to have sex with your wife if you don't want to. Of course. But I dig a bit with the help of a therapist to understand what's the deal with this. Because as it is, it sounds like you shelved your wife as the thing around my baby. And I get why she would be pissed off. You're treating her like an incubator, so obviously she's hurt. She shouldn't try to force you, but Jesus dude, imagine how gross she feels. I felt like we were doing it right in front of the baby. This is childish and dumb. You understand that's not what's happening, right? The baby can't see you and doesn't know you're having sex. They likely can't even hear anything beyond your wife's heartbeat if she's far enough along. Around 18 weeks. I'd be mad too if I was your wife. I didn't feel like doing anything sexual with the baby in the room. So suddenly she became an incubator. I just felt gross. You literally told her she grossed you out. And you are shocked that she left? If you are not mature enough to understand, A, the fetus or cells have no clue what's going on in terms of sex or whatever. B, your wife is a person with feelings. Then you are not mature enough to be married and have a child. Didn't you even think about this before having a baby to, work on it before your wife got pregnant? She hasn't been spinning a negative story about me to my in-laws. She doesn't have to spin anything. The facts are already bad enough. And you are not taking responsibility for what you said and your actions. You even think what happened was trivial? individual counseling and then couples counseling. You need to work through your stuff. This is not trivial. This is very important. You need to acknowledge that first marriage counseling may help you guys. Unfortunately, if her being pregnant, a baby being around, turned you off so much now, it is unlikely that you will be able to have sex with her when you guys actually have kids. They sleep in the same room for a while and then they will start barging into rooms, and even before that age they will definitely start to cry as soon as you start to have sex more often than not, and everything. Ultimately, it is your choice to have sex or not. No one can force you. You have the right to discard her as a woman as soon as she gets pregnant. And no one can force her to stay in a sexless marriage. So to answer the question you pose at the bottom of your post, by showing her, by being physically affectionate with her, it doesn't have to be sex. Kissing, cuddling, caressing, whispering to her while holding her how beautiful she is, how happy you are that she is a part of your life, and that you both are going to be welcoming a new life into the world. Showing her every single moment how amazing she is. Talk to her more. Tell her that you are attracted to her, but you have a mental block at the moment about the baby. That you know she is right. That the baby isn't developed much at the moment. But that doesn't remove your block. Tell her that you want to be able to please her sexually. But at the moment you can't. Tell her that you won't stop showing her how amazing she is. But until you can get past the mental block, sex is off the table. Tell her that you want couples counseling. This should hopefully get your marriage back on track. I just felt gross and I couldn't enjoy it. She blew up at me and said she never would have married me if she thought I was the kind of guy to lose attraction to his pregnant wife while she's carrying his child. That's why she thinks you're not attracted to her. You felt too grossed out to have sex with her because she's carrying your child. Let's just be honest. You're grossed out because you see her as an incubator. Sadly, you can't convince her that you're still attracted to her. If possible, marriage counseling and individual counselings. No, you're not. Your actions speak louder than words. Your wife is in her super horny stage and you turned her down because of her appearance. You suck at gaslighting and you're asking for help on how to. No, you don't owe your wife sex. But please get a clue. Pregnancy hormones are crazy and sometimes you need physical release and connection with your spouse. You need to apologize to your wife for handling this situation so poorly. Although you shouldn't minimize your feelings. You handled it through pure rejection over something she can't change. You didn't offer alternatives, didn't communicate effectively, and ensured that she felt awful about asking for intimacy from you. I wouldn't care if my spouse couldn't keep it up. It happens. But your actions around it make the difference. It costs you nothing to help your wife achieve release. Even if you can't, just remember that actions have positive and negative consequences. You told your wife that she is on her own for gratification. Don't be surprised if she shuts down and pushes you out of her emotional side as well as physical. The way you are acting is incredibly odd. You know your sperm is alive too, don't you? Rejection is something that you never get over. No matter how much time passes. I'm not saying she was right to walk out. But I understand. She's very hormonal and has been since she got pregnant. More so as time passes. It might have served if you'd had a discussion about expectations. But I suppose it's a bit late for that now. Have you considered that your wife wants to enjoy her body and her last months of freedom with you? Before she possibly gets too unwieldy feeling. And before giving birth and having to ride out whatever physical, hormonal storms follow. Potentially for years. She knows she will be different. She's turning to you for connection and pleasure in the now. And you are not there.
If you enjoyed this video, Please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.